Then Shaykh Fawzan, Hafidhullah, he brings a small heading for the next point. This has all been continuation of this third treatise. Shaykh Fawzan gives a heading: أعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد. أعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد. The greatest matter commanded by Allah is Tawheed. Then comes the main text, the saying of the author, Shaykh al-Islam, Muhammad ibn AbdulWahab, rahimahullah: وأعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد وهو إفراد الله بالعبادة. And the greatest of all that Allah has commanded is Tawheed, and it is to single out Allah with all worship. Shaykh Fawzan said in explanation, his saying, rahimahullah, أعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد, the greatest of all that Allah has commanded is Tawheed. Shaykh Fawzan said, this is very important. That Tawheed is the greatest thing that Allah has commanded. All the commandments which Allah has commanded, all of them come after Tawheed. All those commandments, they come after Tawheed. And the proof that the greatest thing that Allah has commanded is Tawheed is His saying, He the Most High. And Shaykh Fawzan quotes the ayah from Surah Al-Nisa, the 4th Surah, ayah 36. Quotes the first part of the ayah: وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. With the explanation, and worship Allah alone and do not associate anything with Him. Shaykh Fawzan said, commenting on this ayah, because he only quotes the first part of the ayah, it's a longer ayah, he quotes the first part: وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. And worship Allah and do not associate anything with Him. Shaykh Fawzan said, to the end of the ayah, the whole of ayah 36 of Surah Al-Nisa, the 4th Surah, the whole of the ayah. This ayah contains 10 rights, and therefore it is called Ayatul Huquq Al-Ashara. It's called the ayah of the 10 rights. People of knowledge, they give this ayah a title, a name, the ayah of the 10 rights, because it contains 10 rights, one after the other. The first of these rights is the right of Allah, the perfect. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Part of the ayah that we had before, with the explanation, and worship Allah and do not associate anything along with Him. So that's with regard to Allah's right. Then the ayah continues, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. With the explanation, and treat the parents well. And treat the parents well. Shaykh Fawzan said this is the second right. The second right that's mentioned after Allah's right is the right of the parents, that they be treated well. It mentions the next part of the ayah, the third right. وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى. And, with the explanation, and the close relatives. This is the third right. And he explains what is meant by them. Dawood, the close relatives, the Shaykh said, the close relatives, Dawood, they are those people to whom you are closely related through your father or your mother, such as fathers and grandfathers, and paternal uncles and paternal aunts, uncles and aunts on your father's side, and maternal uncles and maternal aunts, uncles and aunts on your mother's side, and brothers and sisters, and children of brothers and sisters, and children of paternal uncles and paternal aunts. Those people are Dhawul Qurba. They are the ones termed Dhawul Qurba, the close relatives. They have the right of Al-Qaraba, the right of being your close relatives. They have that right. So that's the third of the rights mentioned in the ayah. Mentioned the fourth one, وَالْيَتَامَى. The the explanation, and the orphans. And the orphans. Shaykh Fawzan said, and they turn the orphans from the Muslims, and they are, explains what is meant by a yatim, what is meant Islamically by a yatim, an orphan. He said, they are everyone whose father has died whilst he was young, and he had not attained the age of puberty. That's in Islam, that's the correct definition, as Shaykh Fawzan is clear. The correct definition of a yatim is a child whose father died, who is a child, he's not reached the age of puberty, and his father dies. Then he said, and therefore he needs someone to take the place of his father in taking care of this child, bringing him up, spending upon him, and seeing to his welfare, and removing whatever will harm him, because he has no father to protect him and spend upon him and defend him. So he has a need of someone to help him, because he has lost his father and his family, and he has a right in Islam. Then Shaykh makes the point from all of this. He said, what is important? So Shaykh mentioned just some of the rights mentioned in the ayah, he didn't mention all of them. And he said, what is important is that Allah began it with His right, He the Perfect and Most High, His saying, وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. The explanation, and do not associate anything along with Him. And He did not restrict Himself to saying, وَعْبُدُوا. He didn't just say the first part of the ayah, وَعْبُدُوا, the explanation, and worship Allah. Rather, He said straight after, and worship Allah, وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Do not, with the explanation, and do not associate anything along with Him. Shaykh Fawzan said, explaining why this is, that Allah the Most High did not just say وَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ and worship Allah, but rather added to it وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, and do not associate anything along with Him, because worship will not be correct along with shirk, and it will not benefit. And if a person does that, he worships Allah, but he also has shirk. Shaykh said, worship along with shirk will not be correct, and it will not benefit, and it will not be called ibadah, it will not be called worship, unless it is khalisa, done purely and sincerely, made purely and sincerely for Allah the Mighty and Majestic. If it has shirk along with it, a person who does worship Allah but he commits shirk, then it will not be ibadah, it will not be worship, no matter how much the person exerts himself in its performance. So he joined the matter of worship with the prohibition of shirk, since worship will not be correct with the presence of shirk at all. This is a proof for the saying of the Shaykh, أَعْلَمُ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ التَّوْحِيدِ. The greatest thing that Allah commanded is Tawheed. And the Shaykh said, because Allah, or since Allah began many ayahs with it, in evidence that the Tawheed is the greatest of all obligations, is the fact that Allah has begun many ayahs with it, with the command for Tawheed. From them is this ayah, and from them is His saying, He the Most High, فَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. Surah Al-Isra, 17th Surah, ayah 23. With explanation, and your Lord has commanded that you should not worship except Him. So He the Perfect and Most High began with Tawheed, and this proves that the greatest thing that Allah has commanded is it. That it is the greatest thing that Allah has commanded. And Shaykh Fawzan puts a further evidence. قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ أَنْ لَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ مِنْ إِمْلَاقٍ. Surah Al-An'am, 6th Surah, ayah 151. With the explanation, say, come, I will recite to you that which your Lord has truly forbidden for you. Do not associate anything in worship with Him, and treat the parents well, and do not kill your children on account of poverty. Shaykh Fawzan said, this is a proof for what will follow, that the greatest thing that Allah has forbidden is shirk. So since the greatest thing that Allah has commanded is Tawheed, then it is obligatory that the person begins by learning Aqidah, learning correct belief, before everything. Al-Aqidah, correct creed and belief, is the foundation. So it is obligatory that the person begins with it in learning and teaching, and that he is constant upon teaching it and explaining it to the people, because it is the greatest thing that Allah has commanded. So it is not befitting that you make it the last of all things, or give no great attention to it, because now there are actually callers who renounce the teaching of Tawheed and Aqidah. People who don't do it, teach it themselves, and they call against it. There are people who are afflicted with this, and because any deficiencies with regard to it, any deficiency with regard to Tawheed, will be a deficiency in the whole of the religion. So it is obligatory to give careful attention to it. And that, as the Shaykh said, Tawheed is your whole foundation. Correct Tawheed, correct belief, correct Aqidah is the whole foundation for your whole religion, which your whole of your religion is going to be based upon it. So if there are any deficiencies in that, there will be deficiencies in the whole of your religion which is founded upon it.
Then he continues with the explanation, Shaykh Fawzan, on what occurs on page 81 of this Lebanese edition, page 63 of the Egyptian print. Shaykh Fawzan raises the point, or raises the question, وَمَا هُوَ التَّوْحِيدُ? And what is Tawheed? So when we know that Tawheed is the greatest command which is upon us, then we need to know what is Tawheed. So the Shaykh said, what is this Tawheed that's required of us? This Tawheed that we have been created for. So Shaykh Fawzan said, and what is this Tawheed? Is it that you affirm that Allah is the creator, the provider, the giver of life, and the giver of death? Meaning Tawheed with regard to Allah's Lordship. Is that what Tawheed is? What is the Tawheed that's required of you? The reality is, as the Shaykh makes clear, if you asked many people this, many Muslims this, they would say yes, that's what it is. That is the reality. And they would be very wrong. So that's why the Shaykh raises the question. He said, and what is this Tawheed? Is it that you affirm that Allah, He is the creator, the provider, the giver of life, the giver of death? No. La. No. And he gives the correct answer. Tawheed, at-Tawheedu huwa ifradu Allahi bil-ibadah. This Tawheed that is required from us, he said, Tawheed is to single out Allah with all worship. Because Allah said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Surah Al-Dhariyat, 51st Surah, Ayah 56. With the explanation, the Ayah again keeps coming here. With the explanation, and I did not create jinn and mankind except so that they should worship me alone. And the Shaykh said, and the people of Tafsir, the people of explanation of the Quran, said, Ya'budun, the word that occurs in the ayah, Ya'budun, means yuwahhidun, single me out with worship. So they explain Tawheed with worship. In the ayah, illa liya'budun, so that they should worship me. Shaykh said they explain it to mean yuwahhidun, they should single me out with all worship. Therefore, Tawheed is to single out Allah with worship And it is not to affirm that Allah is the creator, the provider, the giver of life, the giver of death, the one in control of affairs. What the Shaykh is referring to, he means the Tawheed for which we are created. What is the Tawheed for which we are created? No doubt this is Tawheed. Tawheed, all these things, that Allah is the Lord, the creator, the provider. This is Tawheed, but it is Tawheed of Rububiyyah, Tawheed of Lordship. It is not the Tawheed that's required from us and for which we are created. That's what the point the Shaykh is making here. Someone could say, well, this is Tawheed, isn't it? Isn't that the first category of Tawheed? So the Shaykh is making the point. Tawheed is, the Tawheed that's required from us, for which we were created. It is to single out Allah with worship. And it is not to affirm that Allah is the creator, the provider of life, the giver of death, and the one in control of affairs. Because this is present in people's fitrah, people's inborn natures. Affirmation of all of this. Affirmation that Allah is the creator, the provider, the giver of life and death, and in control of the affairs. This is a matter which exists in people's nature. It is present in the intellects of those who possess intellect. There is not a person of intellect in the world who truly believes that anyone created the heavens and the earth besides Allah, the Perfect and Most High. Anyone who truly in their heart believes that someone besides Allah created the heavens and the earth. No one believes that. There is not in the whole world anyone, and that includes the unbelievers and the atheists. There is not anyone who truly believes that there is anyone from mankind who created mankind. The Shaykh gives the evidence for this. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ. Surah Zukhruf, the 43rd Surah, Ayah 87. With the explanation, and if you were to ask them, the people of Shirk, if you were to ask them who created them, then they would certainly say Allah. And the Shaykh said, there is not a person with intellect in the whole world who believes truly that a human can create a human being who walks upon the earth and speaks and eats and drinks. Is there a person with intellect who believes this? Then the Shaykh quotes as proof the ayah, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Surah At-Tur, the 52nd Surah, ayahs 35 to 36. With the explanation, were they created without any creator having brought them into existence? Or are they the creators? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Rather, they do not have certainty. Shaykh Fawzan said, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed of Allah's Lordship, is something found in the inborn natures, in the fitrah of each person. The fact that Allah is the Lord is something found in the people's inborn natures and in their intellects. However, it will not suffice without Tawheed of worship, and it is to single out Allah with all worship. It's not enough that a person is upon Tawheed of Lordship of Allah, because that's something that's already put into people's nature. It's already in their intellect. It's not sufficient. Rather, what's required from them is Tawheed of worship, which is that they single out Allah with all of their worship. Then the Shaykh said, and therefore the Shaykh said, Tawheed is to single out Allah with worship, and it is not to single out Allah with respect to creation, or with respect to creating and providing and giving life and giving death. Because this is something which is known. And Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed of Lordship, will not suffice with regard to the definition of Tawheed. Will not suffice.